How do we resolve many correlating aspects connected to the world's issues to be able to harmoniously develop something called the Silicon World? The Silicon World. Stay till the end to find out. Welcome to the news. Welcome to the news. Welcome to the news. Hey, we are making unique sounds for you every single day. That is part of how we're paving the way forward. And everybody typically in this podcast who's ever stepped foot into the podcast world of where we're at right now has experienced something called Silicon Valley in the past. And that is what we're transitioning to, Silicon World. Anyways, we're interrupting that concept to be able to get to that in the end too. So sit tight. And we'll come around to it soon. But in the interim, what we'll start to talk about is something called word soup, which is in essence a tool. It's a concept. It's a way for people to start their mental engine. It is something very unforeseen in terms of how to start and kickstart and push start and lean into the ability to try to start and give a bit of incentive to the mind, to the brain, to be able to develop different thoughts that are valuable, that are incentivized by asset thoughts, that are incentivized by asset conceptualizations, like asset correlations to entrepreneurship. For example, an ability to be able to develop asset mindset thoughts, which corresponds to developing a typewriter process where you sit down in front of a computer and you flesh out, just like in a similar alternative corresponding analogy related to like REM sleep. For example, REM sleep corresponds to the deepest aspect of sleep, but you have to work up to that sleep. So it's a similar thing. It's a similar correlating example, which corresponds to the ability to be able to make a process from typing on a keyboard and then developing typing into something that turns into something else, which corresponds to asset thoughts and mindsets, which are birthed from typing randomly, starting to type like an engine, start like an engine, basically typing on a computer, like typing, but you don't know where you're going. You just type. Just do it. Just, even though it's going to feel weird, just try it out, because you give it a try, because that's the only way to be able to find out if you can get to the light at the end of the rainbow, in essence, by trying this out. You have to sit in front of a computer and you want to think in a certain direction. Think about what you're trying to think about, which is but kind of vague in general, but you want to think about asset thoughts. You want to get to an asset mindset. You want to get to an asset flow, where in essence you're flowing about things which can make you money, things in life that can add value to the world, things in life which can add value to other people's lives in the world, in essence, which also corresponds to business and businesses and business energy in the world. And this, in essence, has to do with developing that value. Fundamentally, do a little research, put a little bit of a base coat of a focus in your mind, and then sit down on a computer and start to make word soup. Word soup is something that you start to make by just making different words on the typewriter, on a computer. In other words, on a computer, you sit in front of a laptop and you start typing. And it also works on a phone. If you have a phone just in front of you instead, if it's as long as it's like a digital interface, you can also use it with writing. Writing typically works also, but typically it's mostly something, this jumble methodology of using word soup is best on a phone or a computer, in essence. And how you make it work to your favor, to start to spit out asset mindsets, to start to spit out asset thoughts, to start to spit out mental gold, if you will, for lack of better words, to finding ways to invent or think about ways to like add value to other people's lives in the world, is by starting to do word soup, where you just make jumble. You start to type jumble, you start to type, just type anything that comes to mind. Just get your fingers in motion, get your fingers moving, and then eventually you can start to think about things. Things will pop up. Things will pop out like popcorn, basically, from your word soup. Your word soup, you start with word soup and you start typing, random ideations, random idea aspects will start to flow from that, and different things will branch from that. But you have to start by making momentum. You have to start to lean in to the process of making different momentum, different energy on a digital paper, on a computer. In essence, you have to start to make digital energy. You have to start to flow, and start to lay down different words that don't make any sense. But eventually, different words will pop up, different concepts, different directions of different things that you want to do. They will come out of the word soup. So you have to start by making word soup. It doesn't necessarily always make sense, but you have to start by typing. And it's like you're starting an engine. It's a mental engine. And then based on research that you've done, based on your subconscious, will start surfacing. And then you're able to translate that into different words that you can set aside, or different sentences that you can set aside that are valuable. And then you can collect those sentences more or less. And that's kind of how these podcasts come about too. In essence, throughout the day, there's different ways of aggregating different thoughts of value, for example, and then you collect them all together, and then you make coherent, cohesive, bigger pictures out of those conceptual, valuable thoughts. And that's how word soup works. Word soup starts with jumble. It starts with not knowing what you're going to throw into the soup. You just start making words, making different expressions, just iterating on a keyboard more or less. And then you start basically developing different mindsets from those different words, those different feelings. And then you get different words that are more valuable. And then you separate those into sentences that are more valuable. And those sentences, you can also abbreviate them to be able to continue to type faster and then go back to the jumble typing. And you just jumble type. It literally is just an iteration of expression, of a physical expression. And just by doing that, you're starting an engine, you're starting a momentum engine, and it correlates and corresponds a little bit to REM sleep, because REM sleep is a stage that you have to reach, and you have to reach that stage by building up to it, by having like light sleep before you get into deep sleep. And it's similar to this with your engine. Once you start the engine, it's like you don't get into that flow state, that mental flow state, kind of sort of, until you start the engine basically. But you start the engine with word soup. Word soup is just an activity. It's an analogy for a format where you're able to just jump on the computer and start to type jumble, and it's like an engine. It's a momentum engine in essence, and then it's warming up your mind, it's warming up your subconscious, and then suddenly, out of doing that little activity, it's an exercise in essence. You're able to start to delineate different asset thoughts to be able to bring your mind into different directions that can move into asset mindsets. But you don't know exactly where it's going to come from, where it's going to go in essence, but you give birth to asset mindsets. You give birth to asset thoughts. You give birth to little elements of just unforeseen little bits of like asset conceptualizations that kind of come out of the woodwork that can correspond to things like such as this, which is like a podcast episode. For example, you get a little bit of value that you can express in a podcast episode. For example, I've been doing the word soup thing for maybe 12 years. So it just is what it is, but it's just like a momentum game basically. And then from that momentum, different little spurts of value pop out of that like popcorn, more or less. So just to be clear, you just want to type, just like an engine. You're starting the engine like you're trying to kickstart an engine on an old school, like, motorcycle, for example. You're trying to kickstart the engine. And you have to do it a bunch of times. Like it's maybe an older motorcycle or something. So you have to keep kickstarting. Know that in essence, you're chasing value, you're chasing positive thoughts, you're chasing ideas, you're chasing concepts that are valuable to the world, business ideas, business methodologies, business concepts, certain things that you'll just like will come out of the woodwork, pop out of the woodwork, and then you can aggregate those, make abbreviations for those, make side notes for them, make little connections to other past side note, asset, energy notes, and then conceptually stack those up to be able to add up to different messages as your subconscious feeds you different conceptual messages that add up to other things. It eventually down the road, later in life, in another day, it add up to a different idea that adds value to your life or other people's lives, and then you could just retain that value more or less, and then add on to that code at later times also. Add on to that code that spits out code basically, spits out code of value, but you have to start the value engine with the word soup game. The word soup game is like an engine starting game. So in essence, that's about it. You just want to start the game with adding a little value to the word soup game, and just pull the choke cord on that engine by just typing. And once the engine started for a while, maybe even 5 minutes, you could call it 5 minutes, for example, and then 10 if you need like extra time, basically. But just from sitting there, staring at the screen, thinking about adding different words, making your own different code, making your own abbreviations for certain things that you find is valuable, and then you can keep revisiting those abbreviations quickly because it's an abbreviation, and that therefore gives you the opportunity to just like make a note of it and then like add value to it by making abbreviation combinations basically, and it's like your own little code. But nonetheless, that is value that pops out of that activity, and then it is something you can retain and develop asset lists in your life, asset lists which are able to go into the long term. They're asset lists that go into the long term. Now floating back to Silicon World. It is a new era where everybody can be a CTO. Everybody can be a creator or a CTO. So everybody has the ability to connect with somebody who's organized, like somebody who likes to clean houses, for example. Somebody who likes to be organized and clean houses, for example, can be the CTO. And then somebody else can create an application. So being able to create mobile applications these days is something that can be connected by as simple as vibe coding something into a phone, for example. But you can actually change the world with applications. You can develop, just like Word Soup is the application from this podcast episode. Word soup is something where you just want to free your mind and write down a bunch of jumble, challenge yourself to write down a bunch of jumble, different words, different codes. You're getting different feelings as you write them down, and that is as an application, because I just outlined the rules of that application from this podcast that you get the idea from how you would have to use that application if you made one. But it's a for instance application. But we want to continue to try to focus on these mobile apps because that's what Silicon Valley has always been about. And if we're able to transition the Silicon Valley energy to its Silicon world so that we have Silicon world and everybody's developing mobile applications, since there's always a digital side to every business anyway, so every business has a digital side nonetheless. So that makes it like a mobile application nonetheless. The digital side is always like a website, for example, can be transferred and translated into a mobile application in essence. But there's just more configurations that can occur in the electronic sense. It can occur from developing a mobile application. For example, as the Apple App Store has generated millions and billions of dollars and different millions of apps or thousands of apps over time. But these apps can actually, like the Silicon Valley has shown, change the world. They can change the world, simply change the world by getting usership. But these are different vessels. These are different vessels and pipelines that are being laid out all around the world because people can lay down their own pipes now by acknowledging and understanding that mobile applications that can also be desktop applications are also companies. They're just little devices that can turn into things that can scale. So if everybody in the world starts becoming part of Silicon world meaning that we're able to start to lay down different pipes and different structures for the whole world's energy to be able to become better, then we can collaboratively become all makers and contributors to the global philanthropy energy grid, because we can make it about philanthropy, because businesses are meant to solve problems and all these little applications are meant to be businesses. But the secret is doing it for free. The actual secret is wanting to do it for free. The secret is wanting to do it for philanthropy energy. The secret is wanting to do it to develop good deeds for people. That's the actual secret to making the global philanthropy energy grid, is everybody wanting to do it for free because it's a game and it's fun. It's fun to give things to people in essence. So that ability for people to acknowledge that we can collectively right now continue to change the world collectively in a unified fashion by developing mobile applications on a global scale, that in essence enables the whole world to be able to come together and solve the world's problems right now by leveraging AI, leveraging the scalability potential of making applications real and connective, and doing it for free as like a free activity, similar to people using Facebook, for example, using Facebook every single day because it's free and because it was marketed to them in a certain way so that they feel like it's valuable to use Facebook, but they're doing it for free because it's enjoyable. So the same thing can be done where people can do this as a free process, but there can be a potential to get money from that at the same time. But in the sense that technical CTOs, which means Chief Technical Technology Officer, was necessary in yesterday to be able to run different applications that were more engineering based in the past. Those today can be anybody who's technical. So that in essence enables two sides so that the whole world can partner and develop basically a Silicon world, which entails Silicon globe, which entails one person who's sort of an organized person who likes to clean, for example, and that can be the CTO now, and the other one who's like a creator. And so both of those people are able to hold each other accountable so that these little teams and these team partnerships are able to help to run the whole world into laying down systems, where this new game is laying down systems in the world by developing mobile applications which can change the world and do good deeds for people digitally by adding value to the global philanthropy energy grid made from mobile applications. Mobile applications around the world that are made for free as fun games. Basically, it's a fun game, but it's possible, just like whatever the odds are, that you can be rewarded also. There is still a tech company, there is still a tech industry, and the tech industry corresponds to mobile applications, which can be vibe coded, and you can still make money from it, but everyone should be doing it for free, because that in essence is the purpose, is to do good deeds, and doing good deeds from the comfort of your home is fun. And one way to do that, one way to physically actually be able to make good deeds happen from the comfort of your own home, a designation of doing something from your own home, just like surgeons can now do surgery from different parts in the world. They can use robotic arms to do surgeries in other parts of the world, in essence, because they're leveraging communication tools such as technology tools and artificial intelligence robotics tools to be able to do surgeries across the world to different people that are intricate, unique surgeries. The same thing can be done to develop the global philanthropy energy grid by laying down root networks and pipelines all around the world, by having collective synergy efforts by everybody in the world starting to want to make mobile applications with their friend, vibe coding different mobile applications with one friend, at least two people for everyone, so that there's a sense of accountability to be able to keep the dynamic going forward. And that's what I'm saying, is one person is the creator and the other person is the person who keeps the plate spinning, because they're more organized and they're able to check emails if somebody sends an email and has an inquiry, to be able to potentially eventually maybe get money. But realistically, that's why the team dynamic exists, because one person needs to create it and the other person needs to keep it spinning. Like the CTO is sort of that person. They just maintain it. They keep it spinning. And it's not to say that the creator can't also contribute to that, but both of these people, both of these things have to be both sides of the process to be able to make this a global philanthropy energy grid building process, to be able to continually, collectively try to help save the world collectively with collective energy and collective efforts from every single person in the world being able to add value to the global philanthropy energy grid. The global philanthropy energy grid. And in a similar fashion, we all are like nodes. All of our brains are like nodes. All of our brains are like brain energy nodes. So we need to be able to leverage that to be able to develop philanthropy energy by doing good deeds and developing the global philanthropy energy grid. The global philanthropy energy grid collectively from all of our center power sources of mentality and mental focus to be able to make everybody else's lives better by acknowledging that the electricity within us is similar to monetary energy, and that can be spread around to the whole world for every single person in the world to be able to benefit from. And that is supposed to be what's on the horizon for our future with technology as it's expanding and evolving. Yeah. Sorry for the weird music in the background. Thanks. That's all. Bye. Thanks for now. Bye. Ding Tech. Bye. Peace. Bye. Ding Tech Change for Game Studios. Bye. Peace. Bye.